Right, we're back.
Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you.
Nice one. Is it just you and me?
At the minute, I think Rob's going to reconnect it.
Live in 10 seconds.
Hang on. Hang on. Right.
Good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday, 20th of May 2020. Spanish Announce Table Wrestling here. Up to be talking about the latest news, reviews, thoughts and opinions on the wacky world of professional wrestling. It is a bit of a strange episode today, partly because we're using some new technology that we haven't used before, and so that might mean that we're a little bit stilted, a little bit confused, but we promise that's not going to lead to any dead air. As well as being live over Nova Radio 102.5 FM, that's also novaradio.co.uk. We are live over Facebook, YouTube and Twitch, as far as I'm aware, so hello everybody on social media. The other reason why it's going to be a bit of a weird show is more of a solemn reason. Actually, it's quite sad this week in the world of professional wrestling. We're going to dedicate this show to the life and times of Shad Gaspard, former WWE wrestler who sadly passed away. We believe on Sunday. He was missing presumed dead, and then it came to light today that unfortunately his body had been found. So that is a really sad bit of news for anybody that was a fan of I'd say the Ruthless Aggression era. Probably, I would say, was that when, or the
late, I would say late Ruthless Aggression, early PG era.
Yeah, early PG, I would say. I can't remember the exact time.
Around 2008, 2009, maybe.
Yeah, I'd say that was PG era in that case then.
Yeah.
For me, I remember, I think I've just double checked actually, it was 2006, so right at the end of what I would class as the...
Oh yeah, the Ruthless Aggression era, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Shad was a great big powerhouse in real life, a really lively, upbeat person. Everybody that's met him has sort of poured out the heart on their experiences with Shad and how he's quite an open, sort of engaging person, not someone to turn a fan away or a handshake away. So to see somebody like that no longer with us is a real shame and really sad for wrestling fans. He's probably most known for his time in the Crime Time tag team with JTG, formerly known as the Neighborhoodie. Together, they've had several tag team championships across various different promotions, ranging from WWA, the NWA Wildside, and the OVW Southern Tag Championships. Fortunately, none of the championships they held were in WWE, but that's really where we all know Shad from, was his run in that Crime Time tag team on Monday Night Raw, occasionally teaming up with John Cena as a bit of like a trio. Those three had like a gangster gimmick, sort of thugs from the hood kind of shtick going on, where they would sometimes like rob some of the other wrestlers. It was a very cliche, very stereotypical sort of thug gangster from the hood kind of gimmick, but it worked, and it was because it was such a clear cliche character. Everyone could quickly relate to him and go, totally get what that guy is supposed to be. Totally know somebody like that. I totally get what this is. And it was just so fun because he bring out the fun side of wrestling with in-ring skits, selling wrestlers' belongings that he'd stolen, that kind of thing. But he was also a great big powerhouse. And from what I remember, he'd also had a hand in MMA, but I might be wrong at this. Maybe it was a shtick that he had when he split up with JTG and he wore the little trunks. He changed his theme music to something a bit scary. I seem to remember he had like a ground and pound kind of shtick. I don't know if that was related to anything he'd done in real life or not, or just a part of his character, but it certainly grabbed me. So, to see Shad no longer with us, it is a real shame. I think he was 39 years old, so that's no age. So obviously tonight's episode is dedicated to the life and times of Shad, and also his friends and family and loved ones as well, who are obviously going through a terrible time. real life hero. There's accounts of him saving people from being robbed that cropped up in the news, acting like a real life hero. In fact, actually, at the point of when he died, he was in the sea in a heavy riptide, in a heavy tidal wave, when he was swimming with his son. And when the lifeguards came out, he actually said, "Take my son first, leave me, take my son, and then I'll wait here." And ended up being a sacrifice, because being the hero that he was, Shad was more interested in the life of others, the life of his son, and he did the noble thing there. And it is just really sad, really, because it's hard to transition from something really sobering and really grounded, like losing a big character like Shad, to then talking about the wacky world of wrestling and WWE and whatnot. So we'll do the best we can. I think we should just probably share just a couple of some of our favourite Crime Time or indeed Shad Gaspard experiences. Neale, what about yourself? What jumps to mind when I think Shad?
I quite like Crime Time. It was a product of the time, I would say, because Ruthless Aggression, like you say, was about like the John Cena and that sort of like gangster rap sort of era.
Totally.
But I was a bit skeptical, because at the time, around what you were saying, 2006, I didn't think it was that long ago. But I was very much into the website WrestleCraft.com. So when they were playing the vignettes of it, I'm like, oh, this is going to be on WrestleCraft in a couple of years' time. But it wasn't. It was actually really over. It was really good. You could tell the tone by the cheesy announcer going, "Yo, yo, everyone, it's Crime Time."
That's it.
So you kind of get the tone that they were going for, and it really worked. They were both good. They were both different wrestlers, but they were both good. It's a shame they weren't as popular in singles, but that's sometimes how it goes, unfortunately.
Yeah, they did go off and have solo careers, didn't they?
Yeah.
But really, I think most people, when you think of Shad, will automatically go to the tag team. And that's really my memories, when they tagged with Cena. They teamed up with Cena when they wrestled against Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch in a series of matches, which was a lot of fun. Selling some of Lita's possessions on her final match as a member of the active roster, which was pretty fun. I know they left and came back. I don't know what they did in that. Was it about 2 years, from 2007 to 2000?
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was up until 2010. Was it not?
Yeah, 2010 was the end of their final run. I think what they did is from 2006 to 2007, they had a run. They left for a couple of years and then came back for a couple of years. So they sort of had 3 stages, really, each consisting of 2 years, being bookended by WWE runs after WWE. I mean, that's 10 years ago. They've not been on TV, as far as I'm aware. I might be wrong. I may be. I don't remember.
I don't think they popped up in any other major promotion after that, or did they? I mean, I can't remember them in.
No, not really.
Or anything like that.
Not a televised one. I don't even remember them coming back for a cameo, doing like on the Raw 1000 or anything like that. I don't remember any cameo or anything.
Did they pop up in Japan at some point?
I can remember.
No,
I can't remember ever seeing.
I might be thinking MVP, but yeah,
MVP definitely had a big career.
Yeah, he did, because he was good friends with them. Because I know he shared when Kofi won the title last year.
Yeah.
He shared a clip of him and Shad Gaspard like embracing because they were so pleased for him, sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think MVP said he was really annoyed with Shad for doing that, and then in hindsight, he was like, "You know what? That was the right thing to do. I'm really glad that he did share it, because it's quite a heartfelt, genuine moment as well when Kofi got the big win. To me, that was a genuine heartstring. Oh my God, he's finally done it kind of moment. So definitely. What about yourself, Rob? Any Shad Gaspard or Crime Time memories that pop to mind?
I'll be honest, not anything that really sticks out. I mean, I know they didn't win the tag titles or anything like that, which until you mentioned, I was actually surprised by, because I've got memories of being tag team champions. Obviously, they didn't.
I thought they did as well. Not even in developmental, I don't think. I think when they were in OVW, that was WWE's developmental territory at that time.
Yeah.
At the time,
so I believe that's their tag team title run in OVW with the Southern OVW tag titles is their only WWE affiliated tag run. From what
I did actually see Crime Time once in London in the O2 for an episode of Raw. But nothing that. To be honest, if you asked me about the match or anything, I just couldn't tell you. It's just I'll have to look that episode up, but I couldn't tell you. I know that I saw them, and that was it. It was about
Absolutely.
October of 2008, I think, something like that.
Sounds about right for Crime Time, I would say.
I suppose
Absolutely.
they were kind of a precursor for what the Usos are now, and for people like Street Profits and
Definitely Street Profits. I
what's
think
the other
more so.
private party?
Free profit.
Yeah, definitely. And if you look at Street Profits in NXT, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, it's the new Crime Time. It's the new Crime Time." And although there are a spectrum of similarities there, I would say that they're a different branch of that. They're from the hood, they're from the street, but it's different, isn't it? And it's, I think a lot has changed in the 10 years between the two tag teams. But I like that.
Yeah, and exactly. Even if it was a direct rip-off, I mean, I think enough time, a decade, a lot of time has passed for there to be a different take on it. But I don't really see that many similarities between the two.
Not really.
There is a little bit. I mean, they're from Da Hood, as us cool kids say, but I think that's about it. I think
the dynamics of the tag team is very different, because with Crime Time, you've got the traditional, like what the British Bulldogs had, where you've got the big guy, and then you've got like the smaller guy that can maneuver in between people and bounce around. Obviously, both tag teams consisting of African American people with the character that they're from the street, they're from the hood. I think that's really what people will see, the outfits and the ethnicity, and go, it's similar, but actually they are a different flavour of a different style tag team. With Crime Time, you had, I would say, more that the big guy, the little guy. With the Street Profits, to me, they're much more two equals, two similar build guys, two guys that are full of power but athletic. It's a different dynamic to the tag team.
Style-wise, completely different.
Yeah.
But gimmick-wise, I can see it slightly, but not a great deal.
I mean, look at Everrise. They're basically the Fabulous Rougeau brothers, or La Resistance, aren't they? So they do recycle things. What is it? Every 7 years they like to recycle gimmicks.
If it didn't work for
As
somebody,
long as they recycle it and they don't sort of do it, beat for beat, then I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Totally.
I mean, say for example, they'll bring in another Voodoo Master now, which I hope God they don't ever do. But they could do it. They could get away with it now.
Yeah.
Boogeyman was near enough, wasn't he?
Oh, I love the Boogeyman.
Well,
bring Boogeyman.
I'll tell you something. That was just a massive missed opportunity. That character. Completely.
I guess Marty Wright's age was probably the only thing that held that back, wasn't it?
Well, possibly,
he was so good.
By that point, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was in his 40s by the time he was on main roster, which was a bit.
Yeah.
But especially at the time, that was quite old for a wrestler at that point, wasn't it?
I think they should have saved the gimmick for somebody who could pull it off over a number of years. Like, say, I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be the next Undertaker or anything, but you could have done a lot with that character, but it turned him into a joke very quick. Yeah. So yeah, it started well enough with him, but anyway, sorry, we're talking about Crime Time, weren't we?
Same era, so it's same era. But
same era.
But it's a shame that like Chad especially didn't have a good singles run, because, like you say, he was a big guy and he had the MMA background, so it's a shame he didn't.
I don't know if that MMA background was real, or I think that was just a part of his shtick. Do you know when he came out and he had the trunks and he had that really intimidating entrance music, like, I'm definitely a heel entrance music. I wouldn't mind listening to that after this. After we've finished going live, I think I might stick Shad Gaspard's solo career entrance theme on and just pay some respect to the man.
There's not any Google matches for Shad Gaspard MMA, so I'm guessing that was
it was just a part of his character then. One thing I wanted to bring up is, obviously we're like almost a month removed now, or if it's not a month removed from what's been called Black Wednesday, with the mass releases, huge exodus of talent in WWE. People are saying a lot of people, not just the wrestlers, but the producers and agents have been furloughed. People in the office, the HR, creative, in the actual admin side of things, all released. Huge mass exodus of WWE. Yet Drake Maverick, known as Rockstar Spud, is still a part of WWE storylines, and they're still making money from him on screen, as he's a part of the Cruiserweight Interim Championship tournament. And I just wonder what people's thoughts were of WWE capitalizing on Drake, making money off of him whilst he's been released. Or if it's an angle, how would you feel if you were Heath Slater or Drew McIntyre or Brian Majors or someone, and you just found out that they're using this as a storyline? I personally don't think it's a storyline. I think we've probably seen the last of him. He'll probably turn it back in Impact or whatever in a couple of weeks. But it's just a weird situation, isn't it? So for WWE to actively be sharing videos of him with his P45, because you get your release forms, and they never really mention any of this behind the scenes stuff.
Well,
But
that's what makes me think it might be a work.
forms.
Yeah, that's what makes me think it might be a work. The fact that they've shown that when, like you say, they never show going, oh well, bye everyone, sort of thing.
No, I think it's just a case that they've got the footage and what they're meant to do. I mean, but then why would they, at the same time, fire somebody that they know they've got prominently featured in the storyline?
Exactly.
So
I know that kind of gets us into Drew Gulak later, because he was literally in the middle of something and he's walked out. Yeah. But that's a different story.
We'll come on to Drew, but yeah, definitely a good point. Yeah,
that's a different story. I mean, they've done this before where they've either fired or somebody's walked out in the middle of a storyline. Pac's a good example as well. I'm trying to think, like, obviously you've got the famous examples like Bret Hart, but like usually when they're fired, you don't see them again. You don't see them still in matches afterwards, which is weird. I know it's pre-taped, but like they're playing it as if to say,
I think that's
I've
the only issue.
myself.
I mean, if it wasn't for the pandemic, I don't think we'd be seeing any of this. And but I don't know. I mean,
keep hold of people's contracts, wouldn't they? They weren't letting they weren't letting people go. They were saying, no, you've got to stay. Whereas now, it's quite the opposite. It's really strange.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is. But I don't know. I'm keeping an open mind on this because there's things that just don't add up. But then there's also, you've got to take into consideration that yes, we are in the middle of a pandemic and they do have footage that they need to use.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm keeping an open mind on that. But I think if I had to go one way on it, I would say it's real and he's gone.
I reckon so. I don't think it's a
They might do what they did with Daniel Bryan, where they fired him for, well, I know it was for different reasons, but they fired him when he choked out Justin Roberts with the tie, and then a few weeks later they rehired him because he was that popular on screen, you know. So you never know. But
you never know. It just seems like a little bit of a kick in the teeth to guys like, Heath Slater and Curtis Axel. That then again, is it? They seem to be more than happy doing what they're doing now. Looking to the future, they've all got new ring attire, entrance music plans all lined up. They seem like the shackles are finally off.
A lot of those were in the company for years doing nothing, literally doing nothing. So I think some of them might be quite happy to leave and do something new, because it's a bit like, say, you work in a factory and then the job that you used to do goes to somebody else and you're just sitting in the
looking to the future. They've all got new
ring
attire,
I wish I was doing something, and then
plans all lined up.
Something else comes along, you sack a lot of those. I can get a job somewhere else. You know what I mean?
I do.
I know it's not the same, but
what's
not the same, but like, it
is similar to the fact that the job availability moving on. It's weird though, because with Drake, he has been mentioned a couple of times in EC3's promos, along with FTR, formerly known as The Revival. EC3 has been heavily hinting that himself, Rockstar Spud, aka Drake Maverick, and FTR, aka The Revolt, aka The Revival, are going to be sort of a cohesive unit on the independent scene come July, when their no complete clause expires. What do we think about that? Where do we see this being a thing? It's really odd, because he has been mentioned by name by EC3 in his promos, yet he's still a part of WWE weekly programming. So it is really strange.
I'm assuming that actually are good friends in real life, and I think they kind of have like a gentleman's agreement that, if I go here, you go here too, sort of thing. But I don't know. Again, it's a funny one to tell, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you see that being a stable EC3, the Revolt, and Rockstar Spud?
No, I can't.
Could be, but I don't know. I think the Revolt would like to do their own thing first before that
Definitely.
happens.
It's not what I want to see. I want to see the Revolt do their own thing in Japan, NWA, AW, etc., MLW, and I think EC3 is his own thing, separate to that. But the fact that EC3's been hinting about it and they've been retweeting each other's stuff, what's the point if it's not leading to something? It's not what I want to see, but I wouldn't be surprised if something did happen, given how they keep dropping each other's names and, and why would they build to something that's not happening? I don't quite get it.
I don't know, because EC3's best option would be either if Tony Khan or Cody's, out there would to take that, but he had such a good run in Impact.
He did.
It makes sense for him to go back there, but it's the money as well at the end of the day. So,
but he's a multiple-time world champion, isn't he?
He could be going to Japan. All four of them could be going to Japan for all we know.
Yeah, very true. I'd love to see them in Japan and really let loose. It's a slow day in wrestling when yesterday one of the news on one of the reputable wrestling news sites was Paige likes to dip her pizza in mayonnaise was the headline of the news article shared. It's a slow day for news, wasn't it? I won't say the name of the website because the guy who writes who wrote that particular article, I do like to use him as a source and to credit him, so I won't drop the poor guy in it. But what a slow day for news. What about yourself, Rob, with EC3, FTR, Spud? Where do you see them going? What do you think the future holds?
I think different promotion. I mean, I think that as far as the Revolt's concerned, you did ask me about them, didn't you? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'd say probably Japan would be better suited for them.
Perfect. What about the imagine them in the World Tag League, or the
it's a much better suit for them. I think it's a much better environment for them than WWE ever was. I mean, I really, really enjoyed them in NXT, but when they got put on Raw, that was the death blow for them, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
So AEW might be a good shout for them as well, but I would say preferably Japan.
Well, AEW seem to have this clause in a lot of contracts, but not all, where if you want to work New Japan or potentially All Japan or Dragon Gate, you can. Pac's allowed to work Dragon Gate, as far as I'm aware. Jericho is allowed to work New Japan. Moxley's allowed to work New Japan. And Kenny Omega's allowed to work New Japan, but New Japan don't want him back by the sound of it. But if they did want him back, he's allowed. So they could quite easily negotiate a contract where, okay, I'm an All Elite Wrestling employee or independent contractor, but I want to be able to do the World Tag League every year and maybe Wrestle Kingdom once a year.
Yeah, well, I could say that. Yeah. I mean, in terms of Drake Maverick or Spud, whichever name he's going by these days, I would say if he has gone, possibly Impact again.
He was a star there, wasn't he? I think he really was. Stay with EC3.
Even when it was bigger than it is now, because I mean, Impact. To be fair, I mean, I haven't seen it for a long time, but it's pretty much a shell of what it used to be. So I think he could go back there. But then again, who knows what the status is with WWE? So like I say, I'm keeping an open mind with that. And then EC3, AEW.
Makes sense. Yeah. Feud with he keeps bringing up MJF. Because MJF has the exact gimmick that EC3 made famous.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I invented this gimmick. I can do it better. Yeah, so there is heat there between the two because they were pretty much the same Burberry wearing, I'm an A-lister. I don't need to be around you guys. I'm a rich, spoiled brat. I'm better than you and you know it. I'm the best. Yeah, that whole stick with the Burberry scarves and the Rolexes. Very, very similar gimmick.
With the pay-per-view on Saturday night as well. It is Saturday, not Sunday, isn't it? Saturday.
Sorry.
Who would you suspect out of those could actually pop up on Saturday?
None of them, because I don't think they're allowed to until July.
Oh, they've got a non-compete clause.
I believe that's what we're led to believe. So I
Thing
don't
is, with
think
the
they're
no
gonna-
compete clause, is apparently it legally isn't binding. You can take WWE to court over it, but you have to have the money to be able to do that.
Also, you can buy the contract out. If
Right.
Tony Khan wanted EC3, he could buy that.
Oh, you could easily do that. Yeah, yeah.
Time out, but I don't think he would. To be honest,
I couldn't think going to those lengths for EC3. To be fair,
I think Spud and EC3 together is magic. They were together in WWE, but not on TV. It was only on house shows, and by all accounts, everybody loved it except Vince McMahon. So we never got to see it on TV. They've got a track record history of being dynamite together. No pun intended. In Impact, I see EC3 as the star, with Spud as the lackey or the manager sort of role that gets in the ring and wrestles along with him.
Well, you've hit
like
on a
Leo
good
versus
point
Lashley.
there.
MLW would be a good place to start.
I'd have kept Spud around as a manager in WWE.
Mm-hmm.
That.
Well, he
I mean, if
was
they
for
didn't
a
want him as
bit,
a wrestler for some reason, have him as a manager. I mean, he's such a good talker. You stick him on the mic, put him with somebody that can't talk. There you go, problem solved.
he could have been like Shinsuke Nakamura's manager, because although he can talk, he's not very good with the promos. So that would have been a good idea.
Awful on the mic. I mean, he can speak English well, but he needs somebody who can do it better.
Yeah.
So I would say, but WWE doesn't seem to be that interested in managers a lot. I mean, I know they've got some, but not.
It's a shame, really.
Yeah,
I love a good manager. I love a good manager wrestler combination.
A manager can make a wrestler. Like, for example, Andrade in NXT, nobody cared about him until Zelina Vega was his manager.
As soon as she turned up, it's a different story.
Oh, it's a lost art now. I mean, back in the day when you had obviously like Bobby Heenan, Jimmy Hart, Mr. Fuji, all at the same time, Paul Bearer, all at the same time together. And now what we got? I mean, it's forgettable, and it's
something that All Elite Wrestling has proved works. I love the blue-eyed white meat babyface gimmick of Cody Rhodes with Arn Anderson as the manager. I love that combination. I love Jake Roberts, the dastardly, sleazy, dirty, violent, horrible heel.
That's a great combo, Jake Roberts and Lance Archer.
Roberts should have been used
giant monster Lance Archer. Who else? There's a couple of others, isn't there?
Tully Blanchard is Sean Spears' manager for some reason.
And I love that combination too. I think it really works. I think WWE were missing a trick by not having guys like Michael Hayes come out in a managerial role. They had guys backstage, guys like Finlay, all these people that were backstage. Kurt Angle they could have used, although he might have stolen the wrestler's thunder, so maybe not. So maybe not a wrestler that's so.
You would never have, for example, you would never have Bret Hart as a manager, would you? Because he's such a big name.
I think even someone like Devon Dudley that comes out, it'd be difficult. If it's Devon never. Yeah, but he never liked Joe. Like they used to split up the scuffles and the brawls, or the agents would come out.
Yeah.
They use Devon because obviously all the fans would be like Devon. He's so recognizable. So the really recognizable ones, they kind of pushed to the side. We never saw Kurt Angle come out to break a ball up, did we? I don't think. People like that. So I think they used to use people like Pat Buck or people like that instead.
I said this last week, but Robert Stone, Chelsea Green's manager, I just realised that same day that he was Robbie E in TNA.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
just looks totally different. He looks totally different.
Robbie E. And I thought they were going to put him back with DJZ, but no, I guess not.
No.
Is his in-ring career really winding down, isn't it? Because
it's weird, isn't it?
He's just managing now, which is odd because he was a decent wrestler.
Again, there were people who were massively over in TNA and just nothing in WWE. It just shows you that the only person that's worked for is AJ Styles. Is that they've transferred the popularity from R-Truth, I suppose, but not many people translate TNA and WWE at the same time.
Definitely no TNA homegrowns. Ones I would say were started off as a TNA guy.
I would say Samoa Joe's struggling.
I was about to say the exact same thing. You could kind of say Samoa Joe, but he's struggling. Look at Eric Young, former world champion. EC3, former world champion. Bobby Roode, former world champion. Bobby Lashley, former world champion, and yeah, he's on TV every week. He's by no means buried. He's a prominent number
Again,
one.
he's one who needs a good. I mean, I thought Leo Rush was a good manager for Bobby Lashley, but he was annoying at the same time.
He was meant to be annoying, wasn't he?
Yeah. But Lana's lost her magic. I think she was a good manager for
lost that
Rusev.
accent. She's lost that magic.
Yeah.
It's just.
I think
Why have they kept her around and not Rusev? Do we know the answer to that? Or
she was in a longer. I know he wanted to leave, and she just signed a 5-year contract, and he wanted to leave. That probably played a part, and I think they just probably like Lana more. I think Lana's a lot more marketable than Bobby Lashley.
For Lana,
Rusev, sorry. Yeah, who would you rather? What who do you see being on more magazine covers, Rusev or Lana?
Depends what kind of magazines you're talking about.
It does. I just don't.
But Lana's
on
Total Divas as well. So I think there's that element, and she's quite a big character in it because she's quite. Mm-hmm. Her on-screen character reflects in Total Divas as well. It's the fact that she's quite annoying and quite a misbehaving person. So yeah, I think that's definitely why they want to keep her around. Maybe
Raw over the last 2 or 3 weeks are really teasing now, like Trouble in Paradise for Lana and Bobby Lashley. They've been Lashley's been realigning himself with MVP, who was obviously his infamous tag partner and famous rival in Impact Wrestling. For those that remember that. Mm-hmm. What they called BBC or whatever they were called, stable.
BBC.
They were called that, weren't they?
Well, they're BBC.
It's either BBC or PVC, or it was something dreadful.
PVC.
It was
one of the first factions was Sports
Entertainment
Sport Entertainment Extreme.
Spelled out SEX, and we all laughed because we were all
you're right. MVP and Bobby Lashley were a thing, weren't they? Hang on.
Yeah. I feel like that is kind of being played into a little bit without them saying it. Like there's history between these two. We know when they're together, chemistry happens, and when we know when they're together, Bobby Lashley is on top of the world. I believe when they were together last, Bobby Lashley had every single championship in Impact all together, at the same time. So that's now making Lana's character quite paranoid that she's going to lose Lashley to MVP. She's freaking out. She's getting jealous.
They're called the BDC, by the way.
Oh, BDC. I was calling them BDC.
Beatdown Clan. Beatdown Clan.
How can we forget the Beatdown Clan? Was it low-key, MVP, Lashley, and Homicide?
It just is on Wikipedia says stable led by MVP from TNA and Kenny King, reformed during TNA.
Kenny King, yes.
Let's see, members. Oh, hang on. Yeah, MVP, Kenny King, Lashley, Low-Key, Samoa Joe, Eric Young, Homicide,
Eric
Hernandez.
Young? Eric Young?
He was only in it for a month.
I don't remember that.
I think that might have been for... I can't remember when that happened, but I'm assuming it was for like a comedy thing.
Must have been. I can't remember. That was a dark period in TNA history, I guess.
I think, the early 2010s were absolutely horrendous in TNA.
They weren't as enjoyable, were they, as the golden era of what I would class 2004 to 2010 was probably the golden era for me. It's interesting. But also as well, there was the stable that the Mighty Don't Neale, which was it was Shane Thorne, Mikey Nichols, who obviously now wrestles as part of Bullet Club in New Japan. It was Bronson Reed when he was called Jonah Rock, and it was Brendan Vink and about 3 or 4 other wrestlers as well. They were a big stable on the indies, on the Australian scene, and in Japan and Shikara. We got a version of that in WWE, which was Mikey Nichols and Shane Thorne wrestling as TM61, aka the Mighty. And then obviously Nichols left to join New Japan, which left Shane Thorne on his own. Since then, Shane Thorne has realigned with Brendan Vink, who was a part of that stable before NXT. It seems to me that the obvious thing to do is to put Bronson Reed with them, as he is a former stablemate and a former teammate. I think that would really work. Yeah, they're not really going in that direction. They've aligned this tag team with MVP. So MVP has sort of got the storyline with Lashley, but he's also managing what were formerly known as the Mighty Doe Neale, Brendan Vink and Shane Thorne, who actually have a very long storied and quite impressive history together outside of WWE. It's interesting. Is this going to be one big stable? Are the rumors of
Don't see
Apollo
why
Crews
not.
joining the stable going to happen, or
I
are they
don't
just
see
going
why
to drop
not.
the
Yeah.
whole thing? I think it'd be a bit disappointing if like Brendan Vink, they just forget about that whole thing with Shane and Brendan, and they just they fall to the wayside.
Yeah. Yeah.
WWE can drop storylines out of the blue, can't they?
Yeah.
But it could be formation of one big stable.
I wouldn't mind that. Yeah, I mean that might help Lashley in a way, being the muscle for the stable, being like the kind of the diesel or the like kind of the
Or would he be the
trying to think of
centerpiece?
another, like the
Obviously,
Mark Henry sort of character.
yeah, yeah, like the enforcer, the
Mhm.
the muscle.
The big guy.
Yeah. Or what you could do, you could have Lashley as the star, like the one contending for the championship, MVP as the manager, and then
And
you've
they're
got the
like these
tag team.
cronies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I can see them doing that, but there's already like two big heel stables on Raw as it is. You've got the Monday Night Saviors, the Messiahs, and you've also got Zelina Vega and Andrade and Angel
Oh,
Garza. So
the Spanish people.
yeah, the Latino men. So it's like are we going to get stable warfare again like we did
Yeah.
back
I
in the
mean,
late
I
90s?
liked it when there was different stables on Raw because, especially in that sort of time when they had the Hard Foundation, the Nation, and the DX, and
Los
um,
Boricuas.
yeah, and like the Ministry of Darkness and the Corporation. I like those ideas of like a team against a team or a gang against a gang.
I like
So
that.
I don't
It
mind
works
it
in
at all.
Japan, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. That mean Japan Bullet Club and Chaos that's been going for nearly a decade now, hasn't it? So
Yeah, yeah, it has.
yeah, so yeah, it can work. It can work,
No,
but
absolutely.
you have to keep it fresh though. You can't just do what they
That's
did
it.
with NWO and just have NWO versus everyone and flattening everyone.
And with stable warfare, it's so easily to recycle things that have been done before because so much has been done before already. It's hard to get like a unique angle with stables because there's been so much stable warfare in wrestling for as long as we can remember.
Yeah, I mean, that's going back to things like Four Horsemen and that, isn't it? It's just like there's always going to be, and even before there was NWO, you had the Dungeon of Doom, which was just
Yes, you did. I forgot about that.
And Raven's Flock and everything, and they
Yeah,
tried
that
that
was
in
I
TNA
loved
with
the
all the
Flock.
different factions, but yeah,
Yeah, with Immortal and Fortune and all these stables.
yeah, definitely.
What do you think, Rob? What does Rob think about stable
I think
warfare on Monday Night
if
Raw?
they were to do that, if they were to do the stable versus stable, gang versus gang, they should just look at the late 90s, what they did with DOA, Los Barricas, and which was the other one I'm missing here? There's three.
Nation Domination, Los Boricuas, and DOA.
And DOA, yeah. And they should just go that angle. I think they should. I mean, obviously, it'd be slightly different because that was basically just all an offshoot of the Nation, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I think I could see Raw going that. I mean, this is giving them maybe a bit too much credit, but I think they should do that in the sense that if obviously Lashley did form this stable, it's not necessarily done yet, but I mean, if they did, then you've got the other two. They could do that and basically just use the Attitude Era, the gang warfare style, as a blueprint for it. And because I think that worked really well.
They were all heels as well, weren't they? And that seemed to work.
Yeah, I think so. I think because they're all, as I said, they're all offshoots of the Nation Domination anyway, weren't they? So
yeah, that's why they
all. Hold on though, wasn't Los Barricas so weren't they sort of tweeners?
Yeah, I saw them as heels at the time, but I was quite young, so I might not have. I might not have picked
No,
it.
that might just be me
found them
misremembering. I mean, it's 20 something years ago now, wasn't it? But yeah, but I think, but yeah, no, I think they could do that. But then again, I think it would also be something that WWE would get very bored with very quick, like they usually do.
Yeah, definitely. No, I hope it elevates somebody. Whether it's Lashley or whether it's Apollo Crews, Angel Garza, Andrade needs something
It looks like Damien's gonna. I don't know if he's joining in face or he's just joining again just so he can put it out. There he goes.
Poppy's blood money lined up to give.
I'll be back soon. Phone is playing up. Right, okay.
So we're still on Facebook and Twitch and that. So this is
So this is like the kind of the dark match.
yeah, this is a peek behind the curtain on Spanish Arms table.
Yeah. But what were we talking about in the first? Oh yeah, about the ones who got
Hey, so we're back on air, everybody. We did mention at the beginning of the show there might be a hiccup or a hitch, and it might be a bit of a weird show. I'm not sure if anybody could tell, but our feed cut off when we were literally just midway through its conversation. I like to think that our colleague Damien in the studio played some music in between, which was great. I hope you've all heard a song and not me and Neale complain. Me and Neale obviously have still been live over Twitch and Facebook and YouTube. Obviously, we're not broadcasting over radio during that little blip we just had. So I'm sorry about if there was any dead air or you had to listen to a song and instead of us ranting and raving about wrestling. Where were we, Neale, before we had that little technical glitch?
We were talking about, we got onto from EC3 and Drake Maverick and the revolt of the revival, forming a stable and going to a different company. Then that got us talking about a stable's good or bad, which we said.
Yes.
And then this got us onto how Bobby Lashley and MVP's small stable might be joining together, which we said it might be a good thing for Bobby Lashley. In all, yes. I think he needs something. I mean, he's at the end of his career, I would think. Because how old is he now? About 40, 41 maybe? I know that's not old for a wrestler, but...
Actually, I think he's about 40. I think 41,
but he's not... I mean, when he joined the company, he was the fresh face, wasn't he? He was quite a... And it never
First
really
time
took
round,
off.
yeah.
So it might be like a sort of a AJ Styles sort of character, and the fact that his career takes off when he turns 40. You know, he's 43. I've just looked it up.
I think with Lashley, there is still massive marquee box office money in seeing him versus Lesnar. I still think there's money
Why
in that.
don't they not just give us that match at a... You know how... I know it sounds harsh, but they gave us Finn Balor versus Brock Lesnar as a bit of a throwaway match. We knew Finn Balor wasn't going to win that one, but they gave us that match anyway. I mean, if they don't have enough faith in Lashley against Brock Lesnar, why don't they just do that? Because they've had loads of matches, especially 2017, yeah. Brock Lesnar was on more pay-per-views than ever. And he was going against like Samoa Joe and people like that, and I was like, we know he's not going to win, but it's going to be a good match overall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I mean, no one has to necessarily. Obviously, wrestling's best when you don't know who's going to win, but that's not always the case. It can just be a case of telling a good story in the ring with Lashley and with just have that edge of realism. You know, like when Luthez was in the ring, he can really stretch people. Kurt Angle, he can really stretch people. Brock Lesnar, down 7, all these people. There's an element of big money match, big marking, with weigh-ins, and have it just give it just a different style, a different flavor. Have it like a high stakes match with the weigh-ins, big fight feel to it. I think you can do that with Lashley and Lesnar. In my opinion, I think there's still money in that.
I'm surprised that they didn't do, you know, how the Royal Rumble this year was basically feed the beast. It was like Brock Lesnar saying, come on, who have you got next? Surprised Bobby Lashley didn't come out, and it's like, come on, a real challenge now, sort of thing. Because he was like laughing at like John Morrison was like, oh, come on, easy. And then like Shelton Benjamin was like, he's me mate, he'll know what to do. There you go. So it was like, if somebody like that came out, who was it where he went, oh, big boy, who was it? He said that.
Keith Lee, wasn't it?
Yes, that could have been Bobby Lashley.
Definitely.
Keith Lee's. I think he's going to be the one to take over from that spot. I think he's going to be the next face of the company. I think.
future WWE champion. If that's not the case, WWE is stupid. But then again, there's plenty of people that could have been WWE champion that they dropped the ball with, and
of course, plenty times.
With Andrade, we've been mentioning him in his stable. They've obviously kicked out Austin Theory, who's now joined Seth and the Messiah and the other stable. Bit of a crossover there, and Andrade's putting the title on the line against Apollo Crews next week on Raw. So there's lots going on. Do you think Apollo Crews is going to snap and turn heel? Maybe align with somebody? Where do you think this is going? Is it time to take that title off of Andrade?
I would like Apollo Crews to get a chance at something, because he's got the talent. He just doesn't seem to have the it factor, I suppose. Not that he has the charisma as well.
Yeah.
He just needs that push. He needs something. I think it might be a manager, or it might be a gimmick change. He needs something to give him that edge, where at the minute he doesn't have the edge. He just has the talent, and he's by all accounts apparently a very funny guy. So why not give him a more like humorous character sort of thing?
They did that with the smiles, didn't they, on the way to the ring? I think I've had my fill of seeing Apollo Crews with the smile on his face, thinking everything's going to be okay. I'd rather see him just go out and kick someone's back. I'm going to use
that could have been it. It could be like the broken smile, like no more Mr. Nice Guy sort of thing. It's like, right,
exactly,
I've had it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't let anyone take him for a fool anymore, sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wouldn't mind seeing that. When he was Ill Nation on the indie scene, he had this like charisma that he was a big star. If he had it there, why doesn't he have it here? So I think is it maybe a case of micromanaging with WWE? Could this be another case that needs to let the shackles off, let the reins off, to let him do what he wants, maybe, and maybe let him be himself?
They've let him do indie matches. Well, even though he's on the Raw roster, they let him do indie matches, because he was in a British one. He was in Preston City Wrestling. I think he won the title, and WWE were like, "Oh yeah, go ahead, do it, go for it. It'll be good for you."
They tend to do that with wrestlers they don't care about, don't they? Remember they did that with Kenta. We fought Marufuji at another event, and they were like, "Oh, just go over there and do that. We don't care what you do." So,
well, they did that with.
If it was Roman Reigns, it'd be a different story.
I think they should start doing that with because I'm sure they did. Yeah, that around about 2006-7 maybe, there was a promotion in Cena's hometown. I don't know if you've seen this, but where Cena was the guest referee when he was the champion. And Vince even made an appearance as like.
I do remember this. Yeah.
It's weird, but I think they should.
Theme music hits at a local indie show and everybody goes ballistic. Imagine if we're at a little indie show somewhere locally and all of a sudden like Vince's music hits and he comes out, the place would just explode. It'd be awesome.
Well, in Glasgow, Triple H came out at ICW.
Yeah, it was ICW, wasn't it? But there is that working relationship where it's kind of like a feeder system to NXT, isn't it? Like the same with Evolve. And
so you're sitting at like FTW or something, and then Vince McMahon comes in like, what the hell?
Mad, wouldn't it?
Be crazy. I think there should be more integration. I think it's within the interest of WWE to integrate with indies a little bit, and the fact that like it brings more attention to WWE and it also brings eyes on that smaller company.
100%. No, I agree. Yeah. I love seeing wrestling promotions and wrestlers interact with each other. Sometimes WWE being in its own little bubble, in its own little world, to me is a real like off-putting thing. I like it when they acknowledge other companies, and it's almost like an insider wink, nudge. Like, I recognize him from Evolve or whatever, and they mention, he's a former Evolve world champion. I quite like it when they do this, and they mention so and so's been in New Japan. They're a former tag team champion there, because it just makes everything feel more legitimate. Everything feel more. It's all a part of the same world that we love. When WWE try and make up like they're the only thing in town, it almost sets them aside from everything, but in a bad way, like almost like they're not a wrestling
sort
company.
Of like, the only thing I can compare it to is like Disney is like they're like, oh yeah, Disney's the world.
Yeah.
Not like this is the same with WWE. WWE is wrestling and that's it.
Yeah, but to a lot of people it is, isn't it? So we always compare WWE to Disney, and I think those comparisons are quite true to life. One thing you mentioned earlier, Neale, at the beginning was about these wrestlers being released and ones that could turn up at Double or Nothing, or ones that have suddenly gone from the company.
Yeah.
One that's quite a big one, and one that's been impressing us all quite a lot recently was Drew Gulak.
Yeah.
He's
He
worked his way up to the top of the mid card scene. He's wrestling likes of Daniel Bryan, Cesaro. I think he defeated Shinsuke Nakamura, former IWGP World Champion on SmackDown. They're having great technical matches with the likes of Daniel Bryan, and now he's gone. What do we think's happening here? Do you think he's going to turn up at Double or Nothing? Do you think he's going to be back? Contract negotiations were apparently on the table, and they still are. What do you think's happening?
I feel like that, yeah, you might be right that Cody's just went, look, we need you on Sunday. Just leave. They won't mind, sort of thing. Or Drew Gulak's like, I'm not getting anywhere. This is just ridiculous. I'm gonna go. If you don't want us, hoping that the like Triple H or whoever was in charge of his contract will be like, no, stay. We'll give you more money. We'll give you the title.
Which is what they were doing up until like a month ago.
And then like it backfired, and they were like, yeah, just go. See if we care.
I from what I've gathered is that his contract was due to expire on Friday, or the one just after SmackDown just gone, and then what has happened is he's been negotiating. I think he uses Barry Bloom as his. I think it's Barry. Someone say Bloom. I think it's Barry as his agent, his manager. He's famously big wrestlers, managers. He does Goldberg, he does Jericho, gets all the bookings, negotiates contracts. You've been trying to get him to negotiate a much bigger WWE deal because over the last year, they've been trying to stop people going to AEW by offering big fat money contracts to everybody left, right, and center. Now it's Drew Gulak's turn. He's like, right, well, now it's my turn. I'd like a big money deal, please. And they've said, no, we've just got rid of everybody. We're not doing it. And I think there's a discourse between the two now of Drew being like, I want to wrestle for WWE. I don't want to wrestle for anybody else. I'd just like to have the opportunity that everybody else has got in terms of a contract rise and a bit of job satisfactory, having a post job satisfaction, that kind of thing. And I think what then did is retracted their offer and been like, well, no.
So, it's a shame because they were giving him a chance and they were giving him like the technical wrestler like spiel. Like they were given with like people like Bret Hart and Mr. Perfect and all that. And Kurt Angle, like, you're a technical wrestler, that's what you're good at. And they've paired him up with Daniel Bryan, who's an equally good, if not better in some people's eyes.
No, he's perfect.
But he could have been the next. Well, I was going to say the next Chris Benoit, but I'm not going to say that. And the next, like, Dean Malenko, the next Perry Saturn, you know.
Next technical.
Next Owen Hart, you know.
Definitely, he's the light cruiserweight, the technically sound. There's no reason why he couldn't have been, like you said, another Dean Malenko type character, another similar person, that name of Mark Rocco or Joe Malenko, anybody like that, where they're in the standard of the mid card. They can mix it up technically. They can have matches with the top guys if they want. But
he's shown he can do a good character as well, because I think his character way was like no flight, no
flips, no
and all that. That was good. And then when he did the PowerPoint presentations, that was even funnier.
Yeah,
and then he was teasing this character of like the rich Texan where he was wearing a Stetson and like the little bow thing.
I forgot about
and he never did it. He never did it though. He just teased it a bit. But he's had a decent run, I think, compared to some people. Say if you compare it to like Eric Young or EC3, he's had a decent run.
Yeah. And those guys are former world heavyweight champions. So for Drew Gulak to have gone from being like an evolved champion, which is lower down the pecking order than where those guys were, he's really done well for himself. But it could have been so much more. Look at how Eddie Guerrero was used in the mid card, how Dean Malenko was used in the mid card, how guys like you said before, Chris.
Dreams can come true when the size. The fact that Eddie Guerrero for years was a mid carder and then he was a main eventer.
He was a cruiserweight.
Same with Kofi Kingston. Same with like Rey Mysterio. Same with people like even the bigger guys like Big Show. I would even use that comparison maybe.
Yeah. It was a long time mid carder.
You know.
Val Venus, Billy Gunn. Guys at the top of the mid card. I don't see why Drew Gulak couldn't have been that. Look at Spike Dudley. He's smaller, and he was like on every show for weeks and weeks and weeks.
He was very over.
Yeah, he was over, and he was half the same as tiny compared to Drew Gulak. I
Yeah, that's
think
the thing.
the manager I mentioned, the agent, I think his name is Barry Bloom. It's definitely something Bloom. I know that he's
Hmm.
the agent. He's negotiating with WWE a new contract for Drew. If it falls through, then we might see him crop up elsewhere. I think if he turns up at Double or Nothing this weekend, WWE will wash their hands of him. Do you think we're going to
Right.
see him Double or Nothing? Do you think he's going to be the
Um,
entrant in that ladder match, or?
well, we'll go through the card one by one in a bit, but it's very likely the fact that this has came literally almost a week to the day before it happens
Yeah,
is very convenient.
very, very
On the
much.
same way that like I was saying, Cassius Ohno, aka Chris Hero, who was a
Mhm.
huge deal on the indie scenes in Ring of Honor,
Massive deal, yeah.
and basically pretty much developmental talent in NXT and WWE.
Mhm.
It could be him. So any
Yeah.
of these people have been furloughed or just gone or whatever could easily just say, "Hey, here I am." But I mean, we might go into this
I
later.
think
But
if you're
to me,
furloughed, though, you're still legally employed, aren't you? So
yeah,
I would
that's
think there's
true.
probably something in their contracts where they
That's
can't do
true.
that. I would think if it's anything like how furlough works in the UK with employees, there'll be something built into their contract where I'm currently
Mhm.
furloughed right now. I
Yeah,
can't
same.
start working for somebody else
Mhm.
in that time period because of
Yeah,
taxes
same.
and
I
everything in
can do
contracts.
voluntary work, but I can't get paid by anyone else, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's the same. So
Yeah.
WWE are a stickler for money and screwing over their employees. I don't see
Mhm.
why they wouldn't have a clause in their contract. So I think in
Yeah.
terms of seeing guys like that furlough turn up, probably not. Main roster stars, probably not, because there'll be
No.
that 90-day no complete clause. However, with FTR,
Yeah.
with Chris Hero, and with Drew Gulak, and with Sting, those are five wrestlers who could potentially turn up. I don't think they will, but they could turn up at Double or
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, with
Um,
Sting's a funny one because his release was found out in a very bizarre way. It was when because Zack Ryder or Matt Cardona and Brian Myers do
Mhm.
the wrestling figure podcast thing or whatever it's called. They call it.
That's it. And there was meant to have been a Sting one, wasn't there?
Yeah, and they were going through the line, and then they got a press release saying that Sting wasn't going to be released anymore, and that they sent one back saying why. And apparently the response was he is pulled out of this thing,
Yeah.
and then eventually they found out that it's because he withdrew his contract
Mm-hmm.
with WWE. But
So,
then again, he's on a different contract to most people. The
yeah,
fact
it's like
that
a
he's
legend
a
ambassador
legend
contract, wasn't it? Yeah.
ambassador, because well, that's what he had at first when he was doing the video game promotion. It was
Mm-hmm.
just to make appearances in the makeup, saying, "Hey, buy this video game." But then they were like, "Oh, we'll put him in a few matches then, if that's the case of paying for him."
Yeah.
Um,
Do you
so
think
I
we're
think
going to get to see Sting wrestle again?
maybe it's once, maybe it's once. I think, like you were saying, I think we were talking about this last week. If we are going to see the last Sting match, it should be NWA.
I agree.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll be able to afford him, but I think it should be there. I would
Mhm.
like to see that.
Or
I
could
don't know
be.
who he would wrestle. We've seen him
Um,
wrestle Nick Aldis before, haven't we, in TNA?
yeah. Oh, and
I'd like
apparently
it
that
to be.
was a match that Sting apparently requested to face Nick Aldis because he said he saw something in him. So it could be a good full circle moment. Yeah.
They wrestle again, yeah.
Mhm. But
That'd be good. Yeah,
I think it might be a bit of be a good like passing the torch to somebody like Marty Skrull, or somebody like
that's a good
that too,
idea.
like a big
Yeah,
character.
totally good
Um,
idea.
somebody in Japan, like he could have his last match in Japan against somebody like Evil or somebody like that, who's
Yeah,
like a
totally.
big personality.
Sonada or imagine Sting versus Okada in 2021.
That'd be mad. That'd be mad. It
Because
won't be the match that we
Okada,
want to see, but
well, Okada could have a good match. He could have a good match with you and me. I mean, it's Okada.
yeah.
Anyone
That's
can
the
hide
thing.
Sting. But again, I don't think this is going to happen by any stretch. I'm just saying, if it did happen, Okada's the guy that could hide all of Sting's weaknesses and accentuate the few strengths that
Mhm.
he's got left. If anyone can make Sting look like a legitimate threat, it's Okada.
I remember when when Ric Flair was announced that his actual retirement in WWE, and people were saying that, well, he should really retire to Sting, but that's not going to happen. And I remember on a forum, I wrote a year's worth of booking for Sting and saying, oh, what you should do is it should be his debut is to retire Ric Flair, and then he faces all these people he's never faced before, ended up
Yeah.
with his last match being against The Undertaker, and that same year being in the Hall of Fame. But that never happened. That didn't happen.
Beautiful.
I was saying like Sting versus, obviously we had Triple H, Sting versus Shawn Michaels, Sting versus
Cena, Randy Orton, the Shield,
Randy Orton, and
all
they
these
could do the
guys,
whole
yeah.
Legend Killer, and even Kane for a few moments in the Big
Yeah,
Show,
exactly,
and
yeah.
all these matches that are never getting Sheamus just to rub off a bit of the magic onto him.
Yeah.
And that never happened, unfortunately.
No,
but
certainly not on TV. Shame.
I mean, they really missed a lot when Vince bought WCW, but didn't buy most of the expensive wrestlers. They missed
Yeah.
a massive opportunity there. That could have been.
Do you know what? They could have brought them all in a year or two later. I
Yeah.
think they should have stuck to their original plan of keeping Nitro on TV. I think there was something in that.
Yeah,
where
I
they
think
really could have
the
done the brand
invasion
split
angle
like
could
that.
have worked two ways. Really, they could have had it on two shows, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest dropped opportunity ever. Really, is that. What a shame that storyline. I was into it at the time, but in hindsight, God,
At the
can you
time,
imagine if
very
they had
exciting, but in
Goldberg
hindsight, it was absolutely horrendous, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really bad, wasn't it? But yeah, I don't think. Do you think we could see Sting in All Elite Wrestling in a similar way that we saw Bret Hart? You know, he might come out and hand over a trophy or a title, maybe be used as Do you know how Kenji Muto was used when he was like scoring a match?
Yeah,
as a guest in, like
he could be.
guest referee.
Yeah, it could be the same way that I feel like a lot of they're not new, but like the younger, well, they're not even that young, but some of the talents who aren't big names, let's say, like Sean Spears and Lance Archer, what have you, have a legend backing them. I feel like he's already got himself over already, so it doesn't really matter anymore. But Darby Allin would be the one for Sting.
Oh, definitely.
Kind of a passing of the torch, saying you're the new
100%.
mysterious.
That's the match that people
wrestler.
online have been clamoring for, and I have to admit, Darby Allin's one of my favourite wrestlers in All Elite Wrestling. So I would love to see that match or that partnership, the synergy between the two. I mean, I would like to see him use maybe how like Pat O'Connor and Luthez were used back in the day, and Terry Funk, where they would just come out and be like sit at ringside and mark the match. And just be like officials for the match. Do you remember how in TNA they had the championship committee? And it was like Harley Race, Roddy Piper, and I think it was Ricky Steamboat, and they would just sort of sit there at ringside, jotting on a notepad. And if a wrestler broke the rules, they'd be like, write something down. And they were never really used for anything outside of making
Rich
it.
Martel sometimes would be there as well, wouldn't he?
Yeah, definitely.
It was weird.
I wouldn't mind seeing him used in that regard, just staying on the outside of the ring. Maybe with Kenji Muto and another legend, just sort of there at ringside as judges or something like that. I don't know, judge officials, something like that. It's an old thing in wrestling where you do get legends sat at ringside. I just want to see Sting on TV and actually used, and like he was in WWE, where we didn't really get to see much of him.
That was just a massive misfortune because Seth Rollins was just obviously overconfident in what he was doing, and then. I mean, accidents do happen, so I'm not blaming him individually, but I feel like they were too confident in Sting's mobility. I think it was like as if imagine doing that to Hulk Hogan. You know what I mean? That wouldn't happen. So I think they were overconfident in Sting's mobility because you can even see in the match with Triple H where they're kind of matched mobility, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
that it was quite a competent match, and then when you put him against Seth Rollins is like Speedy Gonzalez and. Things like not even Wile E. Coyote's like, Daffy Duck just standing there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it just was a mismatch of styles. So I think they could have built up Sting, like what they're doing with Edge at the minute. I know that's a pretty bad example, but Edge is that they're kind of saying, "Oh, imagine this fantasy match of him and him." They haven't done that yet, which is what I thought they were going to do, but they will eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole point of bringing Edge back is for those dream matches we never got. Edge versus the remaining members of the Shield. Edge versus AJ Styles. Edge versus, or Aleister Black, Andrade. Edge versus Daniel Bryan. There's so much to do with Edge.
That's
So
actually a
much.
good point to get on to next, is the fact that on Raw, they're advertising this match that hasn't happened yet as the best wrestling match ever.
Greatest wrestling match ever.
That's a lot of pressure.
So, yeah.
I don't know if it will be, unless somebody can see it in the future and go, "Oh, it definitely is. It definitely is."
We put a post up about it yesterday in lots of very well-known Facebook groups to get people's opinions, and universally, everybody said it wasn't going to be the greatest wrestling match ever. I mentioned that wrestling has 140-year history, started in the mid 1880s. I'd be surprised if this actually makes the top 5,000 matches ever.
This is the thing, because
It probably won't even be the best match of the night, let alone ever.
It's that rule of like, obviously, we both do like music reviews and things like that. We both know not to use a phrase like the next big band or the best band ever, because then it automatically makes it untrue.
Yeah,
and overrated.
Absolutely. It's like speaking in complete hyperbole.
Yeah.
It's quite see-through that it isn't going to be that. And I think anything that it then does is going to be a letdown. This match could be a 5-star match. It's not going to be, but it could be. If it was, we're still going to be.
Oh,
do you know what? That's the best match all year. But it's not the best match ever.
Because I did like their match at WrestleMania, and a lot of people said it was really boring and went on for too long. And even, I don't know if you watched it, but I don't know if you're a fan of the guy, but Charlie Brooker's viral wipe, where he was basically going through all the TV and coverage of coronavirus so far. And he mentioned WrestleMania and thought, oh, here we go, the usual wrestling jabs. And he made a really funny comment. He says, oh, you can't touch WrestleMania, come on. And then he went, I'm actually watching it. It looks like a specialist video from the dark web. And then he showed you a clip of that match. And I'm like,
oh, right.
When outside of that, does look like a really weird setup, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I think if you're in the know, it was a good match. But some people come on, we want to see the next. We want to see championships.
Definitely. I mean, with me, we've mentioned this before. I've always said WWE have preconditioned their fans to react to spots and to moments instead of the actual storytelling, which is the actual wrestling. And therefore, WWE audiences have a shorter attention span. And I just think that is evident by people complaining about this match. To me, it wasn't too short. It wasn't boring. I found it like a multi-layered story that I really enjoyed. I thought it went on just the right amount of time because I feel like I think it's that typical WWE audience with the short attention span that maybe got 20 minutes into it and started to get a bit bored. I think that's a shame. It wasn't exactly, a wrestling classic, but it told the story of absolute hatred between the two.
Yeah.
I personally really liked it. I've rewatched it more than once back. So in the post that I put up, some of the matches I've just compared it to, and this is going to be the match that they're going to have at Backlash in a few weeks. I think it's the 13th of June, I believe. Some of the best matches ever. I've just compared this to Dean Malenko versus Rey Mysterio, Misawa versus Kawada, Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat, Misawa versus Stan Hansen, Pat O'Connor versus Lou Thez, Kazuchika Okada versus Kenny Omega, Eddie Guerrero versus Dean Malenko. Looks like I can't see because it's so small.
Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels.
Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Steamboat versus Randy Savage at WrestleMania, Kurt Angle and Shawn Michaels, Misawa versus Kenta Kobashi, Ric Flair and Harley Race in the steel cage, Dynamite Kid versus the Tiger Mask, Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania, The Rock versus Hogan, it's not Kenny Omega, is it? Sorry, it's AJ Styles versus Kazuchika Okada, and Kenta versus Zack Sabre Jr. Just some of my favorite matches that I think are some of the greatest matches ever. You could use the ladder match between Michaels and Razor Ramon if you wanted.
Yeah.
Where do we think Edge and Orton is going to match up against these?
It's not going to be well. I mean, they'll be pulling something out of the bag if it is, but I don't think it will, because a lot of those matches, when they were announced, we thought it'll be good. It won't be best of all time.
But they weren't billing it as.
And then when we watched it, it was like, yes. Like Undertaker, Shawn Michaels. I mean, at the time, I thought they're both getting on. It's not going to be a great match.
Yeah. We weren't expecting it to be anything like that, were we?
That was before Undertaker was considered as a technical wrestler, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the fact that like he always had the same sort of match, even though he was entertaining and a very good wrestler, he never did what he did with Shawn Michaels before.
Mhm.
So things like that, and like you were saying, things like Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat. I think people were like, "Oh, it's just a mid card match, nobody cares." And then like it's like it comes on and it's one of the best.
Completely different style to anything else that
and
was.
Okada Omega as well. They've had 4 of those, and they've all been fantastic. And
Mhm.
again, it's a bit like, oh, it's just some guy who couldn't make it in Canada versus some Japanese person I've never heard of. I'll give it a go. Wow, and then just like,
One of the greatest matches ever.
yeah.
The thing
So
is, though,
go
I
ahead.
think too much focus is on, is it going to be a great match? Like a lot of the time, I think really it should be, there is someone who is a good baby face and a good heel. You really want this person to win, and you really want this person to lose.
Yeah,
You don't know who's going to win, and you really hope it's this person and not this person. And
uh-huh.
you're tuning in, and you want to see a story between the two, which is almost like a human game of chess with, different layers, different psychology in there, and you don't know what's going to happen. You just know you want this guy to win and that guy to lose, and the
Mhm.
story they tell in between is the wrestling. I think, to me, that's what wrestling is. I think it suddenly becomes a bit too much critique, like a Dave Meltzer critique all of a sudden, where everyone's like, there has to be a dive to the
Dive.
outside. Every move has to look crisp, and there has to be, a poison rana, and there has to be a destroyer. Everyone's signature moves have to be kicked out of, and there has to be this, and it has to be an hour long, and all of a sudden, people, if it's not something with a load of crazy dives and everything gets kicked out of, every wrestler pops back to their feet and doesn't sell a thing, so there's no heat, thus no crowd interest. It's all just like people are critiquing the actual match itself. You don't win wrestling matches by the judges on the outside writing you a score out of 10. You win with the pinfall or the submission.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people are now treating it almost like a dance where, that they're critiquing the moves. How well do these moves look? How crisp, how
Mhm.
perfect do these sequences look? And I think there's just too much focus on that and not on the actual heat, on the actual wrestlers drawing
Yeah. I mean, if you
heat.
build it up enough, it's like, I was watching Brian Zane does retro reviews, and what he did was he re-uploaded one of his old ones from
Oh, yeah.
Money in the Bank 2011 with CM Punk
Oh,
and
classic.
John Cena. Before that match, before the pipe bomb, nobody cared about that. Nobody cared. And it was then after when that happened, the build up made it a classic match because people wanted to know what happens. And people were very invested in. It was more like CM Punk,
Yeah,
the rebel, versus the big company, which
yeah, definitely.
John Cena was a surrogate heel in that, even
Yeah,
though in storyline he was the
it was the
baby
other way
face.
around.
He
Yeah,
was it's the same for One Night Stand 2006 when RVD versus John Cena. Even though John Cena was a clear babyface, so was Rob Van Dam, and it
hmm
was more like I said, John Cena was like the surrogate like heel in the fact that like
yeah, definitely,
he had the heat on him.
big time.
So
Because
it's to do with and you like you were saying like Stone Cold and Bret Hart. Nobody would have foresaw how that match ended, and
no,
that's what
but
made
that's
the
the
match
heat,
for
wasn't it?
me.
That's
Yeah,
what it's all about. It was the heat, and it was and the double turn and the story they told. There wasn't a million crazy flips and spins.
no,
The stunner didn't get kicked out of a
hmm
million times. I know it was a I quit match, but the $1 million dream, whatever his submission would have been at the time,
yeah,
didn't get reversed a million times. The sharpshooter didn't get reversed a billion times. Moves were made to look like they were done for a reason. I think sometimes in wrestling, like for instance, a good example is in All Elite Wrestling, you had before the match, Sammy Guevara like 450 Darby Allin through a table before the match. To me, that's a hospitalization angle. Sammy Guevara should then be off TV for a couple of weeks, if not a month, with that. But then he was back on his feet in the ring 30 seconds later, bouncing around, not selling it. I just think it's so
yeah.
the wrong way of doing it for me personally. I think
But yeah,
it, it's just dive, bounce back to your feet. Everything needs to
well,
slow right
mhm.
down to draw this heat, and things need to be sold properly. one of my sort of gripes in wrestling at the minute. I go on about it all the time. It's just moves not being sold effectively. You work the leg over, the wrestler bounces back up, hits a super kick or does a springboard. Like that is that wrestling? To me, that's not wrestling. I just think it's. But then everyone goes mad and says it's brilliant. They're like, "Oh my god, he got up to his feet. He's done a super kick. Wow, best match ever, 6 stars." What? Anyone can do that. It's the story that you tell. It's got to slow down. I don't know how I've gone on to this run, but I seem to do it every time. I think every time I manage to turn the conversation into this. I don't know how I've done it.
Sorry to interrupt, but I'm just getting word from Damien that we're going to pass over to play another song just to give us time to reset our cameras, and we'll get back into this after.
Yeah, let's play some tunes.
Yeah, we'll play a tune. I don't know what it is, but yeah, take it away, Damien. Just
away, dude.
Keep us updated. What's happening? Yep.
So we're
hopefully that's working.
Looks like it. What were some of the other points we wanted to bring?
Should we go when we come back? Should we go to Double or Nothing because we
have
are
to get
at 9:30 now?
Make it and just mention. Ember Moon has said that she might be retired because of that ankle injury, the Achilles.
Amber Moon.
Ember Moon's Achilles.
She was fired, wasn't she?
No, she's still employed.
I thought she was on the list. Oh
no, okay. Liam said she was, but she wasn't.
All right, okay. Yeah, when we come back, I've got the card in front. I don't know if you've got it on your screen, but I've got the card in front of us.
No, I'm just going to bring it up now.
This is a weird order. I'll talk you through it. The first, I don't know what order Wikipedia put them on, but it says
it's not in the right order. It's Wikipedia.
This can't be because they've got the pre-show match like halfway down, so it doesn't make sense at all.
They do. Just do it in the order you think. I just assume Moxley's on last, and the match before it will probably be the match. I think what they'll do, the last 3 matches will be Matt Hardy in the Elite versus Inner Circle. Then they'll do like a piss break match, which would be Bit Breaker versus Chris Thunder, and then they'll do Moxley and Brody Lee.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Damien's said he's gonna restart the chat now, just so you know.
Okay, cool.
So that we're fresh when we come back.
Cool.
I'm back.
From outer space. Where are you? I can't see you.
There we go.
Sweet.
Right.
Is he
So
going to back on air? Or are we back?
I don't know. He said, what time was that? Oh God, we might be. Yeah, we're back on air.
Oh, I'll just ask him now. If anybody can hear this, this was one of the technical issues that we mentioned earlier. We have to sign in and
Right,
out of
we're on the video sites, but we're not actually on Nova Radio.
the radio. Yeah, no, I know we're on Facebook and Twitch and YouTube right now, hey social media, but whether or not we're actually on the radio, which is the
If anyone's watching and they have thoughts on Double or Nothing, put them in the comments.
We'll reply
We'll find them somehow. But yeah, just say who
That's
you
a
want to. Who
I've
you want
not
to.
actually looked at the video.
Good point. Actually, I might have a little peek just so. Just as a little experiment. Let's have a look. Twitch Spanish announce table. Literally nobody's contributed to the chat on there on Twitch. Facebook. Let's have a look.
I'd have thought Ginger Genius would have put something. He normally comments. I could normally trust him to engage in conversation.
Let's have a look on Facebook. 2 shares. I can't see any chat, but Ginger Genius did say hello before.
Yeah.
On our
I
colleague.
It's comment and panic, thinking that we were suddenly back back on
Yeah,
air.
both of us had that thought there. I think we were like, "Oh, Ron." What else? What YouTube? YouTube do have a chat on their live streams, but
Do we have any chats on our live stream?
hang on a minute. Oh, come on. You know when you look for something and it's not the thing that you want.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. Oh, there is a lot of comments actually on YouTube by the same person.
Okay. Good, positive or negative, friend or foe?
Just kind of a technical thing. So it's somebody called Pablo Bonzo.
Oh, is that Pablo Melons?
Is it? I don't know if it is. It just says Pablo Bonzo. It just says, "I hear you, curtain jerks." Says you're on YouTube, blah blah blah. I think it's just very self-referential sort of stuff, like "I hear you speaking," that sort of thing. I don't know who this person is, but okay, I'm glad he's enjoying it.
Good, good. I think it's probably Pablo Melons, probably. Who does the other radio show.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. So we are now back on air from our little song break. In case you guys couldn't tell, we were mid-flow conversation. The reason for that is whilst you guys were all listening to our beautiful song over Radioland, myself and Neale were still live over Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. So if we came back from our break and we were mid-flow, I can only apologise for that. We were knee-deep in a conversation about that, actually, about the fact that we were on YouTube, just trying to catch up with our YouTube comments.
Just to clear up who Pablo Bonzo is, it's Pablo who does the Vault of Horror, which is on after us on Nova most Wednesdays. That's interesting that we can actually do a handover with him off, like, but we won't actually hear what he's saying, but we can hand him over to him.
Is his show directly after hours? I thought he was on a different day. I thought he was Tuesdays.
He says he's on Nova Radio next, so maybe he's filling in for.
No, there we go. There we go.
I thought it was Jamie who did his show next, but whatever.
It's a shame, you know. I've lived in the Northeast for over a year. I've still not gone for a beer with with Pablo to talk about horror movies and wrestling. So
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
after quarantine,
Be
definitely.
a good crossover, I think, if we did that at Halloween, maybe.
Absolutely. In
Yeah,
terms
but anyway.
of the card for Double or Nothing, what are we thinking here? Do you want to run through some of the matches? I know we've got about 25 minutes left, so we'll run through.
Yeah, I'll go through it match by
video.
match as quick as we can, really.
Yeah.
So I'll do it in the order that it's on Wikipedia because it's a weird order. But I
Mhm.
think this might not be the order it's going to be on the night, but this is what Wikipedia have.
It's not in the right order.
No, but this is a good way of. I think the way that they've got it is a good way that we can talk about it, though. So,
Okay.
The first match according to Wikipedia, which I know is not the real first match, is Cody with Arn Anderson and Brandy Rhodes versus Lance Archer with Jake the Snake Roberts, and that's for the AEW TNT Championship, which is their new mid-card championship, I think, isn't it?
Okay, so with this one, I think that Cody's getting the victory here. I think that if you're debuting a new championship, you want your top babyface star who can't contend for the other title. It's going to mean so much if Cody is the first champion. It's
got implications, hasn't it? It's got massive implications. I know he's the babyface, but everyone who watches AEW is a mark. So I know that sounds awful.
No, but it's true.
It's true. It's true. So everyone knows who he is. It's not like they're pretending that he's not the boss because he is.
No, they're quite clear about it. Yeah.
This is. I know it's not the same as when Vince won the title, but it's on the same lines in the fact that
I know what you mean, but it's something they're going to have to get over because it's All Elite Wrestling. If you didn't want to watch the Elite, then why are you watching All Elite Wrestling? It was obvious it was going to be the Cody Rhodes show from the beginning.
It's more on the lines of Jeff Jarrett winning the NWA title. It's more on that line, but it's blur. It's kind of straddling that one and Vince winning it in a way because
if you look back through history, though, wrestlers booking themselves as the top star has always worked apart from Hogan and Nash in the 90s. I think we've got a sour taste in our mouths because of that. And to a degree, Triple H with the Reign of Doom. But if you go back, you look at Vern Gagne, Great Baba, Tonyo Inoki.
Inoki's, I suppose, when you put it like that, actually. It's not
Jerry Lawler, the Jarretts. So, booking yourself on top usually is a winning formula. Like I said, Gagne, Baba, Inoki, Ricky Dozan, it always works apart from that horrible time in the 90s where we had Nash and Hogan.
I think that's why post that is now, it's like a kind of a bad thing to do in the fact that it's always a joke that like when a wrestler opens an indie, they put the title on themselves. It's just so they can have a belt around the waist sort of thing and keep an eye on it. Just to use, I know this isn't what happened, but to use a slight example from a local indie is Paul EC, or Paul EC as he was known. He was playing the character of like the nasty authority figure, and part of his character was to put the title on himself. Now, I don't know if that works for Cody because Cody, like you say, he's a top babyface, so he's the babyface authority figure, which is not you don't usually see, and winning a title.
I think they've done a good job so far of making it feel like we want Cody to be the champion, and he hasn't. Like he's barely won a match this year. It's not like he's being forced down our throats in like a Cena way or a Roman Reigns way, where he's being positioned as Superman and he beats everybody and no one can beat him for the title. They really have humanized him and humbled him to the point where he's relatable and he's not this mythical Superman figure like John Cena. He's quite on the wavelength with us, the fans, and he feels like one of the lads, and he feels like quite a humble character in comparison to someone booking themselves on top. I feel like he's climbing up the ladder bit by bit. His character, is climbing up the ranks, climbing up the ladder after the face of adversity. I feel like he's not being forced down our throats. I also think he's probably the best thing about AEW is probably Cody Rhodes. I love his style of wrestling. Just he's very, very throwback to the style that I like. The only thing that people are complaining about, though, is Lance Archer. You brought him in as a dominant monster heel. Do you really want to be giving him a loss so quick?
That's the thing.
It'll be about 55 days since he debuted.
But the thing with Lance Archer is he's not exactly like he's not green as people seem to think he is. He's been in the industry for a long time.
Yeah, he's been wrestling 20 years.
People don't realize. I didn't realize this till about 5 years ago that he was Lance Hoyt. in
Yeah,
TNA.
Lance Hoyt, yeah.
And I actually was a big fan of Lance Hoyt and the Rock and Rave connection.
Yeah.
And when he went to Japan as Lance Archer and teamed with Harry Smith, it was one of the best things I've ever seen. And I didn't
Awesome.
realize until I looked it up that was
Same
the
guy.
same person. Yeah.
And he was also Vance Archer in WWE, teaming with Kurt Hawkins for a bit.
Yeah.
All the same guy, 20-year career. I think, personally, another month of having him as the unstoppable, undefeatable monster would have really helped. But it's not a deal breaker. I think it's a nitpick. I think if he bounces, if you can get him over in defeat, have him lose by the skin of his teeth and look strong in defeat, and then he doesn't lose for another couple of months, having this big loss here isn't going to suddenly bury him, and yes, a few more weeks would have been nice undefeated.
Yeah.
But the way they've handled him has been so good. It's a nitpick, in my opinion.
To kind of compare it to something out of WWE, I know it's not the same at all, but when they had the Fiend was an established character and they put him against the champion straight away, you're like, well, who's gonna win there? You know what I mean? Because you can't have your monster heel get beat.
Yep.
Excuse me. Or you can't have your top babyface champion get beat either. So who's winning there?
Yeah. I think the difference is here is that in WWE they put themselves into a corner where none of them should have really lost. Whereas here in All Elite Wrestling, it feels like both of them can afford a loss, and there's investment in. I think people either really want to see Archer win or really see Cody win, and there's quite a lot of intrigue where it will do wonders for both men's career if they win, but they can both afford a loss. So there's a lot of people feel really invested in it. Whereas with WWE, when they put themselves into a corner, people kind of switched off because they didn't want to see either man lose. So they were just like, well, this is stupid. It's going to be rubbish for us either way.
I find with AEW, you don't get any repeats, if that makes sense. You get a different match every week, despite if they're in a feud or not. Whereas in WWE, you will see the same match 6 times in a row. Yeah. But with this, I'm kind of torn because I want, like you say, Cody should be the champion. He should have something.
Definitely.
But on the other hand, I do like Lance Archer, and for him to win would make more sense. And it would be good for Cody to beat him next time, maybe. I know I just said they don't do rematches or repeats.
I think they keep storylines going though. Like I don't even think the Cody MJF feud is finished. I think it's overhanging over all of this. Do you know what I mean? I think they're going to come back to that later. I even think Cody and Jericho, they're going to come back to. Or I just think the storylines aren't like WWE, where it's like done next. They flow and ebb and flow with each other.
Revisit it a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think it's just like cookie cutter. Done with that, onto this. Done with it, onto this. It's more like real life, where the storylines actually flow with each other and they come back around. I like to think that's what Tony Khan has in store for us. But I'm really looking forward to this match.
So my pick's Lance Archer, but your pick's Cody.
I'm going Team Cody. I can't remember if these two ever wrestled in New Japan. I don't think they had a singles match.
Let's just pretend they haven't, because it makes it more exciting if they haven't. And the next match.
According to YouTube, they haven't had a singles match before.
Right. Okay.
So that's. Oh, bear with me. Oh no, that's someone doing it on a video game. No, never had a singles match before, so this is good. And the build is, for me, is an old school retro heel face feud build. I'm really invested in this match.
Okay. I'm gonna skip a few. Sorry.
Yeah, that was exactly. You took the words out of my mouth, Neil. Should we just do the top matches because we're running out of time?
Yeah.
I'm going to post a video about this after Dynamite anyway. So
some of these matches, no offense to any of the people involved, I don't care. Some of these matches I don't give a damn about. But the ones that stand out for me is obviously we're going to have the Stadium Stampede match. What do you think that's going to be?
I think. Do you remember they had that empty arena match a couple of weeks ago where Matt Hardy drove the buggy? It's going to be a lot like that. It won't be my personal cup of tea, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Maybe slightly cinematic in a way, where it's going to be them going through an empty arena, kind of like the Moxley-Hagar match in a way. I think it's going to be a lot of crazy wackiness. People being thrown off of things, thrown into things, costume changes, buggies. the crazy, wacky, tongue-in-cheek world
That
of the
was good.
is
That
going
was
to be
good.
here.
They put Matt Hardy's character and Kenny Omega's weird sense of humor to good use in that, because
Yeah.
that's what it was. And it showed you that they both actually match personalities rather than Kenny Omega, who's a
Definitely.
cartoon character now, um,
And we've
and
got
Matt Hardy,
the
who's
return of
still great,
sorry.
but Matt
Mhm.
Hardy's still great, even though he's been that character for years, and he spanned 3 promotions with that character.
Yeah.
And you would think by now it would have got old, but it's still,
Oh, I
in
think
his
it's
words,
great.
wonderful.
Wonderful. It's also going to be the return of the Young Bucks. Actually, no, tonight is the return of the Young Bucks and Paige. So we haven't seen Dynamite yet, have we? So I think maybe when they return on Dynamite tonight, it's going to give us a really good clue, because usually, as you know, whoever's left standing usually loses at the pay-per-view. And I think we'll find out tonight when we watch Dynamite.
I think
what the case.
in that one, the best option would be for the faces to win that one, because that's kind of like, it's a good old cartoony goodies and baddies sort of match, isn't it?
I think what happens is Matt Hardy pins Chris Jericho, leading to a singles match between the two at the next pay-per-view.
That
Chris
would make
Jericho
sense.
wins.
That would make a lot of sense, yeah.
Jericho, so Hardy pins Jericho. Jericho gets the win back at the next pay-per-view. It's kind of 50-50 booking. Kind of. But not necessarily, or Matt Hardy does something to Jericho big in this match
to spark that feud, which is probably the best idea.
Out of everybody, there's lots of individual little feuds going on here between them all, and I think the one to me that jumps out is they're at each other's throats the most is Jericho and Matt Hardy, who are doing the whole Vanguard 1 feud.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be taking that further post Double or Nothing.
Oh. The next match of talking like kind of the most important, apart from the main event, is the multi-man casino ladder match.
Yeah.
Which is I'll read who's in it and then who's not in it. Darby Allin, Colt Cabana, Orange Cassidy, Rey Fenix, Scorpio Sky, Kip Sabian, Frankie Kazarian, Luchasaurus, and then this extra spot that hasn't been announced yet.
Mysterious.
They're all strong mid-carders who could... It's basically their version of Money in the Bank, plus an extra surprise element to it.
How disappointed would you be if it was Christopher Daniels? Because he's the only
if
one
it's
of
somebody
SCU.
who's already in AEW, that would be slightly disappointing in my eyes. But
unless you've got
be in this match
Scorpio
anyway,
Sky and Kazarian at the top of the ladder having
yeah.
a face-off, and then Daniels comes out, and then everyone's like, "Oh, that might be a bit of a
that might be a
swing.
good point to bring in the surprise entrant." I mean, if you could do Blue Sky thinking it might be somebody like Flip Gordon, Marty Skull. Well, not Marty Skull because he's tied up in the ROH, but somebody who's off the elite who hasn't entered AEW yet.
Do you know what? Marty Skull isn't that bizarre. Stranger things have happened in wrestling.
Yeah,
we know Ring of Honor as a part of his. They've obviously promoted him to a senior position. One of his new job roles is procuring relationships with other wrestling promotions.
So that might be a good step
to reach out. Yeah, exactly, to Impact and New Japan. Obviously, NWA is one which is being featured a lot over the NWA show. I'd be surprised if lengthy conversations haven't been going back and forth. Even if we'll do something in a couple of years, I reckon they've had a conversation.
Yeah.
So to see Marty Scurll.
But the names that have been thrown about are like what we were saying before: Drew Gulak, Cassius Ohno, aka Chris Hero, and some people saying Sting. But like I was saying before, he's of limited mobility now. He's not an invalid, but he's
not going to be bumping
not
off
the same as those guys, unfortunately.
Taking a bump from Rey Fenix off of the top turnbuckle.
That would be mad.
Stranger things have happened. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be Sting, and I also don't think it was going to be whoever we were talking about before as well. I think that
it could be totally out left field. It could be somebody like Trevor Murdoch. You know what I mean?
Cool.
Totally left field.
Do you think it's someone who's not a part of the roster at the moment?
It would make sense if it wasn't. Why would they announce? Why would they not announce it? Say if it's Christopher Daniels, why would they not announce that? And it won't be somebody like that's It won't be Hulk Hogan, for example, because they would announce that straight away.
Yeah,
So
it's not someone so big that they're going to avoid
that they
announcing
need
it.
the draw.
and advertising, so
It's going to be somebody who isn't in the company who was like, "Oh my god, it's them! Great!" So I mean, in that sense, yeah, it could be Drew Gulak, etc.
Brian Cage. Do we know how injured he is at the minute?
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, anyone in Impact, because they could just walk out and go, "You don't pay me anyway," and then just turn up. You know what I mean? It could be Tessa Blanchard for all we know. You know what I mean? So,
do you imagine?
it could be Abyss. No, well, he works for WWE now,
He's with
doesn't he?
WWE, isn't he?
Who's
winning the ladder match, Neale?
Who's winning it? It's either the surprise entrant, and if it's not, just pretend that doesn't exist. Darby Allin.
My pick is also Darby Allin. I think
That could definitely put him over. I mean, he's already over, but that could be the next step because the title shot isn't exactly for the world title, is it? It's for a title.
No, it's for the world title.
Oh, right, okay.
The world title. I think this is going to be on the pre-show along with Private Party versus Best Friends, which I think is a good thing because I think if you put your pre-show and you're trying to appeal to the casual fan, they see all these crazy spots, flips off of ladders, people tables, the crazy stuff that Private Party does. Might not be my personal cup of tea, but if people see that channel hopping, they're going to stick around and buy the pay-per-view. So I think those are the perfect matches to put on your pre-show for me personally.
So who do you think's going to win? Pretend there's not a surprise person. Who's going to win?
Darby Allin.
Yeah. I would love it if Darby Allin won.
It's who I want to win, and it's who I think will win. So yeah.
Okay. And then obviously we'll just go straight to the main event, which is Jon Moxley, aka Dean Ambrose, versus Brody Lee, aka Luke Harper.
Yeah, and these two have got history going back to CZW, haven't they? So these guys have been wrestling in CZW, assuming NXT, Florida Championship Wrestling, WWE main roster. These guys know each other well, and they've got good chemistry. What some people's concern is that Brody Lee is very similar to Lance Archer, where you've got the Archer match, where you've got your top babyface who you want to win versus this unstoppable monster heel who's only just come into the business and can't really afford a loss just yet. I would say the way that the two monster heels, in this case, Archer and Lee, have been presented is, okay, it's only been about 55 days, but they've been presented to look so solid, so strong. You can get them over in defeat. If they have a really competitive match and lose by the skin of their teeth and then carry on afterwards and go back to being undefeated after, there's no reason why this would have to result in, anything other than a solid push for them. Moxley, I think, is definitely winning, in my opinion, unless there's some shenanigans.
The thing they could book it strongly enough that they could both have a good match. One of them could come out on top, and it would still be the right result. You know what I mean? Because they've done this before, where you think, "Oh, that's way too soon for him to win the title," and then they've done it, and it's like, actually, that makes sense. And then
I don't necessarily think it's too soon for Brody Lee to win the title, because people have come in quicker, especially with a big name. Look at Sid in WWF. You can come in with a big name and quickly win the title. My concern is it's far too soon to take the title off of Moxley.
That's what I mean. Yeah, you think, is it too soon? And then they might book it well enough that, like, you've basically broke your dreams and everything, and all this gold is for nothing now, whatever. So they could go either way. I think, in my heart of hearts, Brody Lee would be nice to win it, in the fact to get him over as a monster heel. But the way that AEW book thing might be Jon Moxley, and they'll probably book it well enough that he gets like a superhero win, but it doesn't hurt Brody Lee or the Dark Order, because
I agree.
They'll think, "Oh, we're still an ominous presence, even though you beat us. You haven't beat all of us," sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Drag it out. On that, and I know we're pressed for time, but on that subject, how well do you feel that Brody Lee, the Exalted One, is meshing with the Dark Order gimmick? Obviously, Stu Grayson and Evil Uno are still quarantined in Canada. How well do you feel the gimmick has gotten over since its debut, and how well do you feel that the Exalted One being revealed to Brody Lee has meshed with what's been already going on screen?
It's been a bit of a roller coaster, a book and roller coaster, because the reveal of the Dark Order I think it was as far back as the first Double or Nothing, if I'm right.
I think it
And
was
it
Double
was
or
the
Nothing last year. I think it's been a
Smash.
year, hasn't it?
It was Smash Bros, wasn't it? Of
Yeah,
Kira.
that's it. Yeah, that's it.
And then I was thinking, oh, this sounds interesting, and they didn't really do anything. And then they started doing. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
typical
it's
Dognus storyline. And then when they were saying the Exalted one, we were like, oh right, I think I know who
kind
this
of odd
is.
because they've always been interesting, but they've never been like so interesting to the point where I felt like I had to tune in to see what the Dark Order are doing. It's just
No.
like they're all right, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
I just feel there's a disconnect between what they wanted us to feel and what we actually feel. I feel like it hasn't gotten over in the way that we want, and they have done everything they've done. That they have done a very good job of listening to the audience, tweaking things, changing things,
Mm-hmm.
reacting to what the audience is saying to make it work. And it has worked more, but it's still not. I think they wanted this to be, the equivalent of the Ministry of Darkness or the New World Order, this big stable that we care about. And Brody Lee has made me care because I'm a massive Brody Lee mark. But at the same time, I just feel like I would have preferred him without the Dark Order shtick.
He would have done all right on his own, I think. But I think they only gave him that because they wanted somebody who was an
Well-known.
ex WWE person, and I don't know if it was him or somebody else who wrote those live vignettes that he did, where he was imitating Vince McMahon. I thought, oh, don't give him this so soon, please. Because it was like, it put me in mind of the Billionaire Ted sketches, that, and I was just like,
yeah, they were. I don't mind like a couple of cheeky references because it's like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Oh, I'm an insider. I get the jokes. But when it's over and over and over again, it's like, really, like, come on, be your own guy. What I would say is, we're wrapping up now because we only have 3 minutes left. We've just got a little ping from Damo in the studio.
Well, that's the thing. But I mean, who do you think is going to win that one out of what we've just said? I mean, I'm going to stick with Brody Lee for that one personally, but
Moxley, too soon to take the title off of Moxley. I think he is their answer to Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think he
good. Yeah, hopefully that's it because that's what people wanted him to be. Yeah, so that would make sense.
I think he's going to have a long, lengthy run. I don't think you want to be hot potato win the title anytime soon. I will be doing an in-depth thought video on once I've seen Dynamite tonight.
That's the thing. I mean, I'm not going to say these are going to be bad matches, but the two women's matches, I'm sorry, I don't care about them. And MJF versus Jungle Boy, I'm not really invested either. Private Party,
they haven't done a lot. Do you know what? I love both wrestlers. I just think that they haven't made me care about this feud. They've sort of shoved it on us last minute.
No, I don't. It sounds awful, and I don't usually say this about pay-per-views matches where I think I'll give it a chance. But some of these on this card that I'm looking at now, again, I like MJF, I like Jungle Boy, but what have they done?
MJF has a knack of us forgetting about him, and then after the pay-per-view, he's the only one we're talking about. Yeah. Do you think he could screw Cody out of the title? Do you think he could do something?
That could be a good way to twist it. Is they could write it that MJF is the surprise person in the match, and then get it. But on that thought, I think that's
it, isn't it? I think we've had a couple of hours on air. I'm glad that everyone's tuned in tonight. And up next is Pablo Melons with the horror show.
Pablo Bonzo.
Pablo Bonzo. Pablo Melons on Facebook. I probably shouldn't have said that, should I?
No. Pablo Melons is a crazy collector, so yeah.
He certainly is. I love that guy. Cool. Peace out, everybody.
Yep. Bye. Bye. Yep.
Hey.
That's it. We're not on air anymore. I don't think. Maybe we are.
Maybe we are.
Hello up there, Radio Land. Hang on. I think we're still on YouTube.
I think we are on.
This is going to be bizarre.
It's funny.
We're wrapping up on YouTube. Yeah, we're wrapping up on YouTube.
We're still live on YouTube, are we?
A little bit on Twitch. We're still on for a few.
I think we're still on Facebook.
Yeah, this is going to be weird. And we're still getting to grips with the technology, people.
If we're off air, I'm probably going to call it a night because I think.
Yeah, me too.
He's just going to bed now, and I think I'm going to wake him up if I'm in the room next to him.
All right, no brother. Okay, good show. Right. See you next time.
Yeah, speak to you soon. Cheers, dude.
Stay safe. Bye.